so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness, which creates and animates all things. Now, of course, understanding this powerful truth is one thing. Applying this incredibly empowering wisdom to everyday life, well, that's another. Which is exactly why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week to help constantly remind you of what matters most. You are it. And I'm your host, Brandon Beecham. I'm the reflection and extension of you who will be here each Wednesday interviewing a different consciousness changemaker. And on the other 4 weekdays, leading the way to ensure that your perspective is consistently expanded, your vibration is constantly elevated, and your heart is overflowing and full. Also, this episode of the Positive Head Podcast is being brought to you thanks to the support of Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online, and you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out.
All right, all you positive heads, welcome back. I am not your host, Brandon Beecham. I am Erica Middlemiss. I am taking over this week while Brandon is away on a work venture, and am very happy, honored, and pleased to do so. And today we have a very, very special helper with me who's also a very special helper with the Positive Head Podcast to both Brandon and I. We have Alexa Hauser, and she does all of our social media. Hi, Alexa.
Hi, all you positive heads. And Erica, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. You thought of an amazing topic for us to discuss today, and I think it's really fitting that when the two girls take over the podcast, we're going to talk about what?
Sex. Let's talk about sex and creativity. Did that go?
It did. That was beautiful. It was exactly what was in my head, Alexa. That song always comes to my mind.
Me too. Yes, we're going to talk about sex and creativity, and I'm very excited to do so.
Good. Well, before we do so, I'm going to read a couple reviews. And in case you guys haven't left a review yet, we really appreciate when you do. It helps people find us and lets people know what an amazing show Brandon puts on for all of us on a daily. So let's show him our appreciation by pumping out those reviews. I have one today, a very quick one, so I'm actually going to do two. This one is by Rebel Music, and it's called Dropping Gems on the Daily. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Rebel Music. And our next one is from Kristen Joy. She says, wow, thank you, Brandon, for your podcast. For a year now, I've been working on letting go of my attachment to results, the future, and especially the need for a relationship. Your podcast, and in particular, your video of Muji, is helping me to rest in the knowing that I have all that I need to know, to expand my love for myself and others, and to let go of my desire to, quote unquote, get love. This is particularly challenging as I am a single mother of a young and beautiful child on the autism spectrum. Bringing myself back to the present moment is a muscle that I am working out constantly, and yet it is a life that I have called to me to wake me up and lift me to a higher level of awareness and love. The spiritual path I am on is definitely about the journey and not about a destination. And what I have learned is that it is one thing to intellectually understand and get a spiritual concept, and another to experience it. The latter is the toughest one for me. However, I'm at a point where the suffering that comes with attachment outweighs my experience living in joy. So you are helping me stay present with my truth and just be. Hugs to you, Kristen, with lots of beautiful, colorful hearts. Thank you so much, Kristen. That is so beautiful to hear Yes, exactly. Being in the present moment is a muscle that we have to work out constantly. That's why Brandon always says it's a daily conscious effort for sure. And synchronistically enough, this absolutely goes with what we're talking about today. So again, the magic of the universe. Thank you, Kristen.
That was amazing.
So Alexa, tell me a little bit about why you thought about this topic. What brought it up for you? And
it's actually a topic that's been coming to the forefront of my mind over the past couple of months. And honestly, if this were, 4 or 5 months ago, I probably would have picked any topic but this. I went to Burning Man a couple of months ago, which, as you can imagine, and it was my first time. Actually, I got to stay in Brandon's camp that he started, Intergalactic Sasquatch, which was truly a gift, and I can't thank him enough for arranging that because I met so many just beautiful people there. It was incredible.
Amazing.
But something that really came up for me there, and my biggest takeaway there was really surprising to me. I wasn't really expecting it, but this topic of sexuality and creativity and their relationship really became something that I was focusing on towards the end of my trip. And to give you a bit of a backstory about me, when I was growing up, I was an only child. My parents both worked in the news, so I spent a lot of time alone. I have this distinct memory of always feeling wondering, where's my, partner? Like, my parents have someone, where's my person, And I really kind of craved that love. I just remember kind of not really understanding, why I didn't have that same thing that my parents had. And as I grew up, obviously, as I think a lot of people do when they're, going through their adolescent stages, I learned to use sexuality to get attention. I learned, through other people that if I, was sexual, that I could get attention. And I think it gave me a feeling of power, for once in my life. I felt a little bit of power. And of course, that was looking for love in all the wrong places. And I think that's something that we all, like I said, we all go through at some point. But later in life, later in my early 20s, I eventually got into a relationship. I'm still in that relationship. But it wasn't until going to Burning Man that I really realized how much this theme has played a part in my life, and how it's really related to creativity. Our sexuality is really related to our creative flow, and how for my entire life I've kind of been wrestling with this sexual thing, and and how, especially over the past few years, my creativity has been pretty blocked. And I made that connection, and I started to think a lot about how we treat sexuality in our society. I started realizing, wow, we either exploit sexuality, so we use it to sell everything, right? And it's anything you can imagine, we're using sexuality to sell that, or we shame it. We shame, how we love, who we love, the frequency at which we love, the way we love. We shame it. Yes, the body itself. That was the biggest thing, actually, that I was realizing is even just with bras. I mean, I know
the body itself, right?
I don't know. Maybe some of you like bras, but after being at Burning Man, I which is a pretty sexually charged environment, but not really in the ways that one would think. It's way more. Instead of an egoic sexuality, I'd say it was way more of a spiritual sexuality. And it's just a very free, open environment. And, people are walking around there basically naked. So I started having this realization, why do we cover ourselves up in this way? Why are, bras, it's we're covering up the most kind of sensitive parts of ourselves. And it's uncomfortable, and it's also going like a bra. It's like really constricting our heart space, and just kind of, I started feeling this freedom that I've never felt before. And by the end of Burning Man, I was like, I don't want to cover up who I am. Like, I don't want to put on, why do I have to put this on? Like, it doesn't really resonate with me anymore. And so it really became apparent to me that there are all of these ways in society in which we kind of just like, we don't even recognize anymore. But as I'm becoming more conscious of my body and myself and my life, I'm starting to see these ways in which we also cut off our creativity by doing so. And yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it's interesting as you talk about that. I'm thinking of a friend of mine. Her name is Susie. She grew up in East Berlin, and when the wall was up, and so they had zero social contact whatsoever. And she grew up in kind of like a nudist community, and so she grew up with zero sense of body shame or that sex sells, any of that. She just thought this is natural. This is what you do as human beings. And when the wall came down and society was introduced and people started looking at her body and saying things to her about it, she was so confused. Like, what do you mean I have nice legs? They're legs.
Yeah.
You have legs. They're nice legs too. They get you to and fro, don't they?
Yes.
That's
how I feel about nipples. It's like we have nipples and men have nipples. Why do we have to cover our nipples? I don't understand.
Right. Well, because it's part of covering up that sacred feminine, that power that's been instilled in our society for hundreds and hundreds of years now, back to hiding the sacred knowledge, that creative feminine principle. So that's been ingrained in our society for this long. And now it's gotten to the point where it's just so much in our face. Everything, like you said, sex sells, and not only does sex sell, but there's so much shame now. If you want to express yourself creatively, sexually, now there's this slut shaming, right? Like that's not okay to express yourself fully in love for another human being.
Exactly.
And
we close off, and due to that, and I think this is something you're going to speak a little bit more to, is realizing that we're actually like closing off our creative life force, because that is who we are, is sexuality. Like, that is what life is, and that is what we are. We come from sexuality. And so by telling us to, or by, suggesting it's not okay to, going with this bra example, to walk out the door without a bra because it's forbidden or it's wrong or whatever, it's literally saying that we can't be who we are. And recognizing how we turn ourselves off by kind of giving into these social norms. We basically are turning ourselves off in all of these ways on a daily basis. And I was like, no wonder society is so tired and uninspired.
Yes.
We're out of touch with our bodies.
Completely. And you found an amazing clip on this by one of our favorite people to play, Abraham Hicks. So let's take a listen, and we'll come back and chat about some things that Abraham said right after.
I have been really on a great ride since 2011, the first event I came to of yours. And particularly since Playa del Carmen, I've noticed so much momentum, so much excitement and stability regarding a variety of topics. Prosperity, feeling so good about, and the love I have for my family members, and those moments in time that I've heard you discuss where things seem to slow down. And I'm, walking with my mom on the pier to the beach, and I have this exhilarating sensation of the smell of the ocean, the sound of the waves, and the feeling of being with her.
Would you call it an expanded feeling?
Yes.
Because You're in sync with the whole of you, so the whole of you is having the experience, and you're able to translate the experience that your inner being is having in that moment in time because you're vibrationally synced up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It feels so
Natural.
amazing and natural, and it's the deepest sensation of love I've ever felt other than being in this seat with you.
It's how life is supposed to feel for you all the time. That's who you are. Nothing less than that will do.
Exactly. So all of these topics are rising up. It's feeling so good. And I want to add to that. On the topic of my acceptance and comfort and passion regarding sexuality. I'm feeling really good, and perhaps my inner being just really wants to have a lot of sex. But I recognize that as I rise up and I'm more stable on all these topics, that there are these beliefs that I can look at and laugh at. I know that they're not accurate for me anymore. And I feel I'm ready to let them go. And I would like some words of wisdom.
Well, it doesn't matter what the topic is.
Mm-hmm.
The allowing is about alignment. Mm-hmm. And it's about getting thoughts out of the way that contradict. And so, really what we're talking about in these hours that we're together is allowing yourself to discover. And by discover, we mean through experience, because words don't teach.
Right.
Discover how Source feels about this. How Source feels about this. How Source feels about this.
Mm-hmm.
You see, it's an interesting thing because while you are... Let's start in this place. This is the easiest way to address this.
Okay.
You came into this physical experience with a clear sense of who you are. And you were unfettered. There was no resistance within you about your value or about your worthiness. You came with confidence because the relationship between you and the non-physical energy was so in place. In other words, it hadn't been distorted in any way by you turning over that relationship to someone else. Now, this falls perfectly on the heels of what we were just talking about. So, but then as you are here in your physical body, being socialized by your family and by the world around you, you are born into an environment where the people around you had already pretty much lost, and we'll come back if you want to and talk about that in another way, where we can feel it bubbling up every time we approach this subject with a leading edge audience like you. But so you begin giving up your connection with your own inner being for a much less substantial connection with others who are around you. That's what socialization is. Socialization is, we see you now that you are in our midst, the socialized group around you says, and we have worked out a way that we can stand to be here. And we've decided what groups of people we are ostracizing in our little tribe, and what groups of people that we are promoting or approving of. And if you're going to be here, then you have to conform. And so in the beginning, it's easier because it's a smaller group. But right away, most begin, some of you with more struggle than others. We just love it when one of you is a rebellious one who will not conform easily. That's just such a delightful thing for us to see someone standing defiantly and saying, you are not the boss of me. Mm-hmm. And I will not think less of myself just because you do. Mm-hmm. I will continue to see myself through the eyes of Source as long as I can. And then eventually that erodes, and most of you begin to conform to the way society is molding you. And the thing about that is so silly from our point of view is that they're so inconsistent about what they want from you. But you don't stop trying because they're up close, and you can translate their response to you through your seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and touching, and you've not really gotten in touch with your own emotions, and they've trained you to not when you care about the way you feel, they call you too sensitive.
Yes.
Instead of guided. And so most of you give up your sense of relationship with Source early on. And then you try to figure out what is the right behavior. So in the process, and this is a particularly good subject to discuss this about, because in the process what happens is your natural inclination, impulse, instinct, desire is clear within you. Mm-hmm. But that's this track. But what you should do, if you're a good girl,
yes,
and what you should do is another track. Source like that.
That was quite the whistle.
That was a whistle. So you get this wobble going on where your natural instinct is this, but the belief. Now that's the word that we really want to put in. Yesterday we were talking about as belief challenges desire. Mm-hmm. It's that juncture where your belief and your desire mesh, that all is well. But that is a subject because the very continuation of your population is dependent upon those impulses. That's a strong piece of trajectory that you are coming in with, you see. And so even though a lot of people around, different people around the world feeling different ways about it, they pile on all of these beliefs around it until you get a little chaos going on. But for many of you, the most important thing about that is that the stronger desire always triumphs. It always triumphs. Now, if it could triumph, if you could get into a place where you could really go with the flow of what Source knows about that, and you could be guilt-free, problem-free about it, then you would experience alignment like you've never experienced before. But as long as there is some wobble in it, then it is diminished. And we know that that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Again, we say, like we said to our friend before, start with something easier. Start with something easier. And yet, are not the easiest things to come into alignment about really the things that you care about the most? They should be, because the things that you care about the most are most active in your vibration. So logic says that the things that you care about the most should be the things that you accomplish with the greatest ease, just because of the consistency of the desire about it. But the thing that's tricky about that is when the things that you care about the most, when the things you desire the most are also the things that you hold the most contradictory beliefs about, then the things that you want the most just end up being the things that give you the greatest discomfort, or the things that give you the greatest pause, or the things that keep showing up in your life in the same way over and over again in a way that does not work out well for you. So really, in light of everything that we've been talking about in these days, don't you sort of kind of want to just do your best to pull yourself as often as you can away from the beliefs that have been hindering, back to the basis or the basics of who you are, and just ask yourself, what is it that you truly want? Napoleon Hill wrote a book many, many years ago. And it was a book that Jerry taught from before he knew Esther. And in the beginning, when he and Esther came together, he was teaching from it. And there was a section in the book called Sexual Transmutation. And the reason that section was in the book is because he knew, and we're going to say it to you now, when there's an impulse within you that is as powerful and as much a part of the trajectory of who you really are as something like that, the probability of coming into alignment with it is greater. In other words, it's a situation where if your desire is strong enough, it will dominate. It will become dominant. It will dominate your experience. So this conversation really is about how powerful beliefs around some subjects have become. In other words, it's like the world is determined to hold itself at all costs apart from who it really is. And all of this in an effort to find approval there and approval there and approval there and approval there and approval there. All about looking for love in all the wrong places, you see. There is nothing more delicious in all of the world. in all of experience, in all of the universe, than to be in sync with who you are and then. In sync with who you are and then have a conversation. In sync with who you are and then behold nature. In sync with who you are and then have sexual interaction. In sync with who you are first. And what's going on with so many, and it is true with you as well, is that you've been using the condition in order to try to evoke the emotion instead of the emotion to evoke the condition. In other words, it's all about finding alignment first and then. Alignment first and then. Right. Alignment first and then. You just got to talk yourself in to your own freedom.
Yes.
And sometimes it helps. In other words, you could get out there in the weeds. You could do a study. You could decide that you're going to write a book to free yourself and maybe anyone else that you could talk into reading it about the variety of sexual practices and sexual perspectives around the world. Mm-hmm. Not just talking about tribes from long ago, talking about the way people interact with one another now. And what you will discover is that in every case, those religious laws that have been purported to be laws that are coming down from source have been economically driven every single time. How many wives they allow you to have has always been an economic basis. Every single time. It has never, not one time ever, been inspired from source. It is our promise to you. Source wants you to go forth and multiply.
Can I go forth and not multiply? That's really what I'm asking for.
Source wants you to experience joy. Source is not holding you hostage in any way.
Oh, that was fun.
So, yeah, Alexa, wow, what a great clip you found. Thank you for finding this.
Absolutely. She's my fave. I just went to see her in Philadelphia. She's amazing.
Oh, cool. Aren't her conferences great?
The energy was, I was basically in a meditative state from the second I walked in the door. The energy was insane in the room.
Nice. The coolest thing I thought about her conference was that she says, all of you here will get your questions answered. Whether you get called up here to talk or not, you will have your questions answered. And that's very true.
And they are. Yeah, they come. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, what I really loved is right at the beginning where she was talking about when we live in the full expression of the love that we are, that's what makes us vibrationally in sync. Like that's our natural state of being, that love and light of source. So when we're able to fully express that, we just flow and everything gets into alignment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I also love what she said, even about Napoleon Hill, who, was talking about like the key to genius is transmuting our sexual energy and using it as life force. Napoleon Hill, I know, was a big teacher, and even he was talking about this way back in the day. And I think it's such an important thing to recognize in our society right now, especially because this is, and especially going back to actually your episode yesterday with your partner, Brian, I know you guys were talking about how every time someone says something about, your voice, for example, it creates a blockage in that throat chakra and your expression. And I would say it's even the same for our sacral chakra, right? Is like every time someone says something about your body or your interaction with another person or your sexual activity, it's creating a blockage there. Yep. And I know for me, and I was speaking to you about this briefly earlier, I know for me, I can feel like there's something that goes way back for me or through past lifetimes for me, even with this topic of sexuality and the shaming. And I think this is a really powerful time for society to recognize what we're doing to ourselves by shaming each other and shaming ourselves, and how that's blocking our creative flow and expressive flow. And I think that it all can begin to be rectified by just coming back into our bodies and remembering to turn ourselves on, even in very small activities. And I was thinking, even something as small as, you're like loading the dishwasher. It's like, what do we usually do? We're like, I have to load the dishwasher. We're like turning ourselves off to just every activity we're coming out of our body. And even if we coming back into our body just means kind of making everything part of the dance, everything a creative expression. So, by unloading the dishwasher and seeing how artfully can you put every plate on the shelf and making it like a dance. It's like that's the simple way that we come back into our bodies and appreciate our bodies and connect back with this creative sexual energy and flow.
Yes, I love that. That's a really, really amazing tool. Yeah, because like Abraham was saying, we come into this world so clear with confidence, and we don't have any distorted opinions.
Yes.
That are placed upon us, we don't have that judgment thing, until the socialization happens, and then all that pressure to conform. And then, it's like we lose our connection to source in that way. And it is, you lose that, and that's where all the power is. And, for me, this sexual thing is not sacral, it's root. And I know everyone talks about it being sacral, but for me, the sacral chakra is like the womb. That's where a baby grows, right? That's where creation really happens in the womb. But the power is in the root, and that's where our survival mechanisms are, right? So when somebody says something to us that attacks our beingness, that's where our root chakra gets blocked. And then that's also the center where if your root chakra is really blocked, that's where you get into that really disconcerting, sexual, traumatizing type stuff, like rapist type archetype will be an extremely blocked root chakra.
Interesting, because they have that's like the root of their connection, and is that?
Yeah, something, may have happened along the way where their survival, like with their mother, came into play. Everyone's going to be different, but energetically, that's usually a blockage in the root.
Well, I was also, that's really interesting. You just educated me on that there. But I was also, thinking about this, even something else that I experienced at Burning Man that I caught myself doing automatically. And this is, I think, where it really I had this big realization and release was every time I saw like a beautiful woman, everyone there is beautiful. Every human there is just incredibly beautiful. But every time I saw a woman who had an incredibly beautiful body or eyes or skin or hair or clothes or anything, I caught myself suddenly having this dialogue in my head like, well, she blah blah blah, like all of a sudden really hating on her automatically, and I would catch myself and be like, whoa, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And I started to realize, this is what I've done since I was little. Like every time I see someone that I perceive is more beautiful or attractive in whatever way than I am, I immediately start this dialogue about why they're not as good though, or, why, basically putting them down. And what I realized while I was there was, every time I do that, I put myself down. Every single time I separate myself from the thing that I find attractive, right? Like the thing that I find attractive and that I want to possess, right?
Well, that beautiful girl is your mirror.
Exactly.
So instead of looking at her and thinking, I don't have that. This is just what Abraham was talking about, right?
Yes.
Like the things that we care about the most are the hardest things to come into alignment with.
Absolutely.
So instead of looking at her and thinking, I don't have this, you look at her and be like, wow, look how beautiful I am. Look at all these amazing characteristics.
Yes.
I am this goddess. I am this beautiful, beautiful, shining star of a woman, So it's like, and that's that self-love piece, like, looking for love in all the wrong places that she was talking about too. It's like, we first have to love ourselves fully, knowing that we are source, and that's it. At the end of the day, that's all we are. So how can you not love that? And so that is getting in sync with who you are. And then you get your alignment, and then everything just flows. But you have to talk yourself into it, like she said sometimes, and remind yourself, I am love. I am light. Just keep telling yourself until you actually believe it, because one day I promise you will. You know?
Yep.
It's just, again, daily conscious effort, right?
Absolutely.
And like, you know, it's like when we spend our time not being in alignment, like she said too, like it seems that life happens to us, not for us, right? So like this is when people are saying, I don't have time to meditate, you know, all this stuff is happening, and so I need to take action. And it's the opposite. It's the opposite. We need to get in alignment, and then the action will just happen for us. There's nothing that we actually need to do, right?
Absolutely.
And real quick, back to this, you know, sacred union concept, which I really love and I'm learning a lot about lately. The alchemy of this union is how we learn to truly create our reality. And the power and the love that can be created and then vibrated out to the whole is immense. And if you don't ever experience that, you don't understand it, you know? And the only way to experience it is to first, again, get in alignment, get in the flow of who you really are. And when you love yourself, then your amazing partner will flow right into your life, and you can experience what this insane energy feels like. Because trust me, you want to feel it. There is nothing that feels like this ecstasy. It's pure joy and ecstasy. But you have to love yourself first to get there.
And you have to be willing to feel that ecstasy, because I think that's another thing that's just kind of shamed out of us, right?
Yes. Yes. Being vulnerable, right? And open and free with your partner, and not really worrying about how anybody else thinks of you, how your partner feels about you, how your partner thinks you look, you know? You just let go and say, I'm me, this is all of me, and I love me, you know? So if you're going to fit into that bubble with me, then we got something here.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Any final words before we check out for the day, dear Lex?
No, just be proud of your body, feel what you want to wear, how you want to be, and try to come back into your body as much as possible and connect there, because that's where you're going to find alignment, as Erica's talking about. That's where I've been finding alignment, is really becoming present with my body and really appreciating my body and appreciating other people's bodies and beauty, and knowing, as Erica, you said, that it's all just a reflection of self, and to love ourselves.
Yes, ma'am. So what song are we going to play for our lovely listeners today?
Oh, I have a great song. It is called Dorothy by Polo and Pen. They're actually a French group, but the song, every single time I play it for someone, they're like, what is this? It's magical. It's truly magical. So hope you all enjoy.
Excellent. Thank you. Love you all. Till next time.
Also, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Gaia, which is my personal go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear me constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place I know of to do it, period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out.
It looks like it's spinning round. It looks like it's spinning round.